All right, here we are, August 9th, about 8:40 in the morning. Just about to let the flock out of their night corral into their next paddock of this beautiful intercrop that we have planted this year. I just wanted to kind of go through the mix a little bit before I let the sheep in to clean it up. So we've got the base of the mix is cereals. So we got oats and we've got barley. That's the majority of it. We have this really tall tree-like brassicas plant is dykon radish. So they grow the nice big long white carrot-shaped radishes. And then we have another brassicas. So this is brassicas rape or forage rape. So it's basically like a variation of canola. It's not flowering too much. It's basically just, a leafy, moderately, short leafy plant for grazing. Really good forage. We've got Phacelia, which is mainly for, it's a pollinator attractant, bug attractant. So you can see it's beautiful flowers. It's a very unique looking flower. It's not really considered much of a forage, although the sheep do eat it. They do eat up the leaves. It tramples very easily. And you can just, there's just a constant buzz of bumblebees all around me. There's a little guy right there. Thousands and thousands of bumblebees. It's just so beautiful. What else do we have in here? We've got chicory, forage chicory. Right here, it looks a lot like dandelion, and we do actually have a lot of residual dandelion here. That's actually dandelion, I believe. It's got the toothed leaves, whereas the chicory's is smooth. And if we get a rain after we graze, hopefully we'll get really good regrowth out of the chicory. Usually the chicory expresses itself a lot better in the second crop when it's planted in a mix like this, and it's an excellent cool season, so it really grows into the fall through the cool weather. So we're hoping for some rain. And then what else we have? We actually did plant some perennials in here, perennial legumes. So I believe this here is some range alfalfa. That's a spreading, creeping type of alfalfa. We've got some areas where it's come in more concentrated. There is also an annual clover planted as well called berseam clover. I'll point that out if I see it. This is some sainfoin. So that's another perennial that we planted. Very pretty plant. I actually found one that flowered. It's just beautiful. There's red clover, but this is just residual. This is just from it was either seed that was already in the soil, or it was just some roots that were still viable, because we kind of just did a light tillage and disking. So there was a lot of sods and roots that were still intact, and they kind of just resprouted, which is good, because we want this to return to perennial pasture and hayland. So I was very happy to see a lot of residual perennials come back, like red clover. Got tons of timothy. There was a lot of timothy growing in this field, and that went to seed. And I'm thinking this is orchard grass. Yeah, so that's residual. That wasn't planted. But there is a lot of Italian ryegrass that I shouldn't say a lot of, but there is a percentage of Italian ryegrass which is growing in different concentrations. It's a little hard to identify because it doesn't head out in the first year. It is a biennial, but it usually has very shiny leaves. Leaves similar to orchard grass in that it's, kind of slender, very lush, and you're usually kind of shiny. There's some more alfalfas, I believe. But yeah, it's really filled out nice. There's the crop is relatively inconsistent. There are areas where production is lower. And then there are areas where, like right here, where production is incredible. And that's because we had a series of bed grounds with the sheep. We grazed this pasture very tightly in the spring, early spring, so late April, early May. We grazed the sheep with very tight paddocks, and then we bedded them in night corrals exactly the way we're doing this. And we moved it to a new spot every night, and we fed a little bit of alfalfa hay. And so there are some areas that, you know, maybe there was some extra manure accumulation here. These, yeah, wow, look at these brassicas plants here. It just looks like fertilizer was dumped on them. It's just huge. And there are other areas where there was some significant nitrogen tie-up because we tilled in a lot of grass and root matter into the soil, and we planted, like, you know, a week after we broke ground. So there's usually going to be nitrogen tie-up after that. Next year we expect probably to have a better crop. So right here you can see it looks very void of nitrogen. The leaves of the brassicas are going yellow, so that's typically a pretty good sign of low nitrogen. Some purple, that might be low boron as well. But yeah, just general, it's relatively sparse. The cereals have kind of gotten a decent height, but you know, it is sparse. There's no question. And so we just probably didn't have a bed ground here. But overall, I am pretty impressed with the crop. You know, if it was all like this, I'd be very unimpressed. But it's not. It makes up for it in other areas. But that's just the cost you get when you don't fertilize. But we saved a lot of money on not having to fertilize, so that's good. Yeah, and I think this, even though this looks a lot like alfalfa, yeah, I think that is alfalfa. The berseam clover, yeah, I think this is berseam clover. It's hard to tell. Some of it's flowered. It's a white flower. But anyway, that's just that's what the crop looks like. Infinite bumblebees, lots of beautiful headed out green grain and barley, and the sheep are just loving that. They're leaving quite a bit of stalks behind. These are all the radish stalks. So they're chewing them down, even though they're very high fiber. They are chewing them down. They're trampling most of the stalks from the cereals, from the oats and barley. They're not eating too much of the oat and barley stalks, though. You know, they're eating the important parts. So this oat, they've left just a handful of oats. All the leaves are stripped off. You know, some of them kind of are chewed off, but most of them get trampled. Like right here, you can see there's a little layer of trampled cereals, which is great. It's returning that nutrition to the soil. And but yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what we're taking it down to. You can see some of these dykon radishes. They are nibbling the radishes a little bit. That's, see how long, oh, I just snapped that off. So that snapped off. It's probably twice as long as that. And that is going to be adding a lot of nutrition, a lot of nitrogen to the soil as it rots. And there'll probably, if there's, and again, enough moisture, we should see new shoots this year spring out of these tubers, or out of those radishes, and we should see some new radish leaf, hopefully. It's interesting, as we've gone on, I'm seeing more radishes being nibbled by the sheep. At first, they weren't touching them. And now it's like, oh, actually, those are kind of tasty. See, that's been nibbled. That's been nibbled. That's been nibbled. Eventually, they'll probably learn to start digging them up if they can. But anyway, I've just peeled back the fence. I'm gonna let the flock go. If I can do that one-handed. And they are eager. It is getting to be a little late. Because they're just eating so much, I'm not too eager to let them let them out too early. I don't want them to finish. I don't want them to overgraze too soon is part of it. Where we're bedding them up here is this upper area kind of ends right here, but we did not till this area or plant it. There was a lot of spring activity, and it was too wet to till, so we just kept it to residual perennials. So they munch on that all night, and but yeah, they've been going in really full. They're just chock full. There's a nice wether lamb right there. Some of these lambs are definitely ready for processing soon. We got our we've got a perimeter fence following our irrigation line. There's just enough water in our irrigation line to water. Water tub, I move that every second day. So yesterday I moved it. It was in the next paddock, so I moved it here. We grazed this area. They had access to it. Today, I just had to shift the tub to the other side of the line. So I didn't have to drag the tub. I didn't have to move the hydrant. So every second day moves is nicer than every day. So we're just going to disconnect our panel here. And yeah, see if I can do this with one hand. Come on, girls. There they go. Oh, and you can hear the cows in the background. They're in the next pasture over, and they're very angry to see the sheep get this prime treatment. Lay down. Down. Stay. Yeah, they go in there and they slow right up because they can't see. I just love watching them steamroll in there. Pretty soon they'll all disappear. Let's go, babies. How many sheep Sunday? Sunday's counting the sheep for me, so there they go. And there is one more. I have one more cross fence between this fence and the end of the pasture, so they got one more paddock tomorrow, and they'll graze up to that fence and they'll find it and stop. Didn't quite roll it flat. They'll come back and clean this up for sure. In behind. Yeah, they wouldn't want it any taller. That's just so cool to watch. Look at that. Just trampled. Okay, they're going to find the fence over there. I hope they'll find the fence. I hope they won't just graze right on through it because it's not turned on right now. They've been pretty good. Bruce, in behind. They don't need any help there. Just a forest. Forest to feed. Hey, lie down. That'll do. That'll do. And even though they've trampled a lot of this, they will come back and clean it up. And it's going to look just like the other paddock. And of course, we don't want to clean everything up. We want to leave residual. We want to leave some stubble, some mulch layer on the soil to retain moisture. That's going to be pretty important if we want any regrowth. We don't want any exposed soil. And because this was tilled, you know, you see some lightly exposed soil here. We want to cover that as much as possible. But fortunately, a lot of this sod is full. This is full of a lot of sod, which is still breaking down. So that kind of helps some of the protection. They're gonna slowly work their way down all the way to the end and then work their way back. There they go. So it's this is just fantastic forage at its prime for our lambs that we're trying to finish, or just not necessarily finish. We're just trying to get them to a higher weight. We're going to sell them in a little less than a month. So for the next 20 days, we just want to maximize their nutritional intake. They're going through that really heavy duty patch right now. Lay down, that'll do. That'll do. And the bumblebees are, you can't quite see them, but the bumblebees are like, what's going on? Our forest. Sorry, bees. Yeah, that forage there is like literally 2 times taller than the sheep's head. Down to that guy. He doesn't have to bend over, he has to look up to eat. And the leaves higher up in the canopy are usually the ones that have the most sugar. Man, I could watch this all day. They are disappearing. It just kind of looks like static after a while, especially with the bumblebees bumbling around. Wow, that's just insane. Beautiful insanity. Lots of butterfly moths as well. All right, well, I'm going to leave them to it. I'm going to lock them back up again so we can concentrate the animal impact, maximum manure distribution. Yeah, they are enjoying their breakfast, that's for sure. Mother and daughter. All right. That's how we graze cover crops. Cover crops, intercrops, annual, high nutrition annual crops, whatever you want to call them. Just look at that grain row on those barleys. That's it's a really innovative alternative to feedlotting livestock, I think. And with livestock feeding, you lock them up in a corral and you feed them, grain mixed with other feed waste and screenings, and you just give them as much as they'll eat in a trough, and it's full of mud, and they have to give them tons of antibiotics and medication just so they don't get sick. In this situation, the food is the medication. The chicory and the brassicas, I believe, certainly the chicory has a lot of anti-parasitic properties, so they're getting a free deworming, and then they're getting all this grain. It's green, which I think is probably a lot healthier for them. Their rumens are totally geared for just grazing high lignin perennial feed right now. So generally, when you start giving them grain, their rumens need time to adjust with different bacteria in order to get the nutritional value out of grain. So for the first 3 weeks, they're not getting much. They're not gaining much weight on grain in the first 3 weeks until their rumens adjust. In this situation, their rumens should already be, more or less adjusted. They are going to adjust, but they're still eating green feed, which means they're getting more, building more omega-3 fatty acids, more CLA, more benefit from the green feed. And they're not in a corral. they're pretty darn happy, and they're contributing to nature. They're spreading their manure on the land, their animal impact. It's just a beautiful, beautiful sight. And the puppy dogs love it too. Don't you, Roos? Roos, do you like this? Is it fun? Yes. Okay, that's it for now.